Welcome. Today's topic is intentions. A good one to, as we stand here on the cusp of 2021 going into 2022. I know when 2020 was coming to an end, we're all like, please God, let next year, it can't be so bad, but it was still bad. So, let's talk about intentions and how maybe we can, as a collective, set a better intention for the upcoming year. And anybody want to start that discussion? Dead silence.
Hey,
That's funny.
I've got my notes here. I can kick it off.
Sure.
So I've got I don't know, I feel like intentions is huge. Like it's such a broad, I mean it's everything maybe. And so I thought maybe I had a funny story where in intentions where I really started thinking about intentions. And so I just wanted to kick it off and share that. Maybe it'll solicit some entertainment here. The key message is that intentions keep me grounded when unexpected things happen. Because I am saying, maybe set your intentions and allow life to figure out the details. It'll be easier that way and maybe less worry and anxiety. But this is a story about when I asked my ex-wife's parents for permission to marry their daughter. And there was a quote that inspired me before I set the meeting up with them to do this. And it was, hey, plan the intentions, not the details. And this was when I first heard that, I was like, whoa, that sounds wise. I said, okay, I'll plan the intentions and not the details. And I didn't think it through very much. I just expected they'd say yes and we would celebrate, but I was terribly wrong, believe it or not. My intention was to be respectful and honorable, but it turned out they interrogated me for several hours and really took it seriously, like an opportunity to understand where I'm at and this is a good decision. And I just was unprepared for it, but the intentions kept me grounded and it kept me like, okay, like, respect the process and be respectful and be honorable. And I was really glad I'd set that beforehand going into it. But so they ended up interrogating me, and I say interrogating, and they said one question that really got me is they said, give me some examples of some successful marriages that you've seen in your life and tell me why they're successful. And I was just like, oh no, like, man, it just told me how little I knew about marriage, honestly, at the time. And that was probably the point of the question. But I stumbled and then I said to them, I said, your marriage, right? And then and they just broke out into laughter. They thought it was so preposterous that I chose their marriage. And so it was just a really funky moment, but it was really funny for me. And long story short, they asked me to come back in a month to get their answer. And I'm this poor boy. I'm just like, man, like this did not go how I wanted. And then I ended up negotiating them down to a week. And so I came back in a week, and then they loved me and they were very supportive and everything went really well. But it was kind of this thing where maybe if I had planned out all the details, uh, it would have maybe guided me down the wrong path and not allowed me to stick to the intentions so well. Just being respectful and honorable of their questions. But having my intentions clear from the beginning allowed me to, stay on track. So I thought you guys might find that message, that story a little bit funny. I don't know if anybody's experienced.
I like that.
Oh my gosh. Yes, that's probably the roughest interrogation type situation for a proposal, a request to propose I've ever heard. You poor thing. But what it brought up to mind was something that the angels told me that was probably 6 years ago. And I was going through an extremely rough time, under a lot of dark attack. And I was asking my angels for assistance, and I would set intentions. And they stopped me. They just like out of the blue stopped me and said, you need to start just telling us what you need and letting us take care of the details. And it's really the same thing. So that's what I do now for myself and I teach my clients is if you want something when you're setting your intentions, say, I really need, let's say it's money. A lot of people, it's money right now. I really need this amount of money by this date. Don't tell them, how to do it. Don't try to tell the universe, God, your angels, how to make that happen. Just put it out there and let them do the work because there's a million different options we don't know about and never would. Why would we want to limit how they do their part for us, how they respond to our intentions? That's all.
Yeah, that's that's something I really resonate with you saying that, because it's like one is of the ego or the mind, and the other is really of humility in the heart and surrendering to the angels, surrendering to God or ambassadors of the light and whatever form that is. Um, and it's like one is let my will be done, one is let thy will be done, almost too. It's like there's various dimensions of that, and I think it's actually really liberating and freeing when you do uh, let the universe figure out how you're going to get that peace and joy, or that money or whatever it is. Hey Roz, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, my hand's doing weird things today, but okay. Um, I'm really kind of in total agreement with the majority of the concept of, you know, they know everything already, so let them pick the method. But I still think from if you can keep yourself in a non-egoic mode, and if you can just focus on, seeing things evolve the way they need to evolve, not necessarily with the specifics, but when I want something to happen and when I feel like I've looked at all the different options and I still, really feel like it would be good if things kind of flowed in a certain way, I always put this in my mind, and I tell people this and they laugh, but like I'm watching airplanes land at an airport, and every one of those airplanes is some aspect of what needs to happen. And they just flow in very smoothly. They come down and they continue. I'm not necessarily trying to control, like I said, every aspect of that, but there has to be an energetic flow of our intentions. We have to put that in a format where, our heart and soul and our energy is flowing behind and with that concept. So, yeah, I totally agree that, you have to let things, and I'm not questioning your angels, certainly, but I think you also have to be on the page with it too. And by saying that, what I mean is that I think a lot of people get the idea of things happening, but then unfortunately, they're they're creating their own um, lack of those things occurring just because they start questioning, doubting, analyzing, etc. So that's it.
I have a lot to say on that. At this time in my life, Roz and I were just talking about it yesterday, I think it was, but it's really, we've talked about this before. It's really when you're down in it, right? It's really hard to get back into that space again. And that's why I think it's so important to have people that surround you that are spiritual, that are open-minded, because they help you to like, oh, I know what to do, but I don't always do it for myself, right? And so we have these people around us that will remind us, hey, you need to, get into this space and do this now. But going back to it, intentions, I think, are so important. And like Roz was saying, I think sometimes we get caught up, I think it was Roz, in the details of it. And I think that hinders us sometimes, or we see it a specific way, right? We want it to be this way. Like, say I want to move to Florida, but I expect it to look like A, B, and C. And very rarely will it look like A, B, and C, how I intended it to look in my mind. So often people will get discouraged with things like that. But it being open, like, I try to be, how would I say it? I try to be specific, but not too specific.
Yeah, I actually thought of something that ties both of what Terry Ann and Ross said together, and I look at it like uh, you're kind of like almost like the airplanes touching down sometimes is it's like you're receiving pieces of the puzzle as to how this is going to unfold, and how I am going to, whatever my intention is or whatnot, what it's really going to look like. I don't know if that's sort of um alters what Roz's intention on that was, but that's the way I thought about it. And it's like, maybe it says like, yeah, I said my intention, but I am staying tuned in and paying attention and seeing pieces of the puzzle. And then that's where I guess my mind can come in to try to make sense of it and piece it together as I can try to navigate it. I mean, I feel like I do have to have some of that going on. Anyways.
I'm having to mute myself quite a bit because there's a roof being installed just behind my house. So I agree with that. I don't think we disagree on that at all. When you state your intention, that is not the end of your job. That is the beginning. You stated what it is, but you keep your energy attached to that intention. And just like you do when you're on a journey, spiritual journey, you're looking around, you're watching, you're staying observant for things people say, clues, signs, guidance. You're a part of it. You don't get to just put the words out there and then walk away and let whoever is taking care of you do the work. No. You have to keep your energy attached to that intention until it comes to fruition. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, like we keep I think all saying the word energy, and like I want to unpack that for a moment. And I think for me, the way I think about it is, okay, I don't know how this is going to unfold. I'll get pieces of the puzzle as this goes on. Just like understanding myself, I'll get pieces of the puzzle of Robert as life goes on, and maybe I can make better decisions. But I think when I make an intention, and I mean, I really feel it. I'm like, okay, this is it. And, I think there's something about the will and the energy that does attract. It literally attracts or rejects what you do or do not need to reach that end. And I think the thing is like maybe that doubt can creep in. So I set the intention and the energy, but doubt creeps in as it doesn't look the way that I'm literally conditioned and programmed to think it looks. And so if you have a very, very open mind, it's maybe easier to take this intention energy route. But if I have what I would consider a closed mind and I say that things have to happen a certain way, it's just the way it goes, I'm going to struggle. And so that's again where I feel like I can kind of surrender to say that the most important thing is the intention. If you believe in this energetic attraction, is the intention, and then I can just let go. So I think that's the magic of this energy aspect we're talking about is, let you set the energy out there, and it's like it attracts the planes to land. And you're clearing the runway. Maybe that's it. You're clearing the runway. But this could get complicated because we could think about, well, what if I have conflicting intentions in me? And that's probably convoluted. Don't really need to go that route. But anyways, I've got another story to tell if you folks want to hear it, unless someone else had something they wanted to say. All right, I'm gonna go. So the key message on this one is I think that like in the long run, intentions matter. Whereas because even if intentions were noble things, it can still be messy. And what I mean by that is blame will often happen if something goes wrong. Right. So it's like I had good intentions, something went wrong, but like people are still going to blame people regardless of their intentions. And there was a quote I heard that it said, hate makes the world go round, which is sometimes maybe the inconvenient truth about the way things are handled and how, nevertheless, I believe one's intentions are the foundation of retaining peace in the long run, because I think that's what's going to help me sleep at night. If things do go awry, is what my intentions were. The outcome of something might not be fair, but I encourage myself to set honest and loving intentions, because I think that's what matters the most over time. So when I was in one of my first leadership roles working as an engineer, we were in the middle of this massive project, and things were going south. It was kind of like we were starting to tell like, oh no, there's a storm on the horizon. Isn't quite how we planned this would go. And there are many millions of dollars and many people involved in this. And I was privileged to be involved with this early on in my career. And so I was sitting in this sort of high level update meeting for one of the parties involved with this. And I responded to the manager, hey, the kind of the lead person. I said, you've done what you were supposed to do, so you shouldn't have to worry. Like, like your intentions were good, basically. And then she looked at me, and this was a moment where she was going to give some career advice to a young engineer. And she said, Robert, just Robert, as you mature, you will learn that it is not if someone gets blamed, it's who gets blamed. And it was like this moment she said, like, hey, things are not that simple. This gets messy, and somebody's going to have to answer for this. It's just too much money, too many people. And so I was thinking about that earlier today, and I was like, man, what do you do with that? Like, like, yeah, your intentions might be good, but there's still going to be this manipulation of where we place blame, and how we account for things. And, um, I think even within that, like, I can expect blame to happen, but the freedom of my innocence will reside in my intentions. And that's the only thing I can really ever be accountable for. And so I just think about the word accountability. And I don't know. I think for me, consequences are important because they're a feedback loop on how to refine my intentions and make better decisions. But at the end of the day, I mean, the only thing I can really be accountable for is my intentions. I feel like in a court of law, criminal intent has to be proved by the prosecutor. They have to prove there is criminal intent. If they can't, then it's a whole nother story. And so I think even in a court of law, like, intention is you have to have it to have a conviction. So it's I think both within internally and externally in the world, intentions are paramount. However, I'm just going to admit, it's not always clean. It can be very, very messy. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to do with that when blame is going to happen and how to handle blame. And I think you just be honest, right? Anybody think anything about that?
I think I mean, definitely honesty is tantamount to, creating the energy you want. So
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. I mean, if you don't have that, if you're not just straightforward and honest about things, it's talk about go south. Things really start to shift. The energy really starts moving into arenas where you don't want it to go. So I think you have to be pretty straightforward most of the time. The one thing I notice sometimes when I'm dealing with people is I try to be very sensitive to people's feelings, obviously. And I try to present the information that people need in a method that they don't get their feelings hurt. They don't overreact. You can't always do that, but I think you can get people sometimes in their thought process to be a little more aware of the fact that just what they're envisioning and what they want is not necessarily going to work out or be the best thing in the whole situation. And that's a tough one. And anytime you have people trying to blame and people, reacting negatively, I think you got to tone it down and take it down a notch a little bit. So that's definitely a factor. It's ego, really.
Right.
So tough one.
Hey, Ivory, I think your mic is off.
Thank you.
There you go.
There you are.
I'm glad it was. Coming back to that point of being blamed for something, like, that's a hard lesson that I learned early in my mental health career. I was in a supervisory position, and I was passionate about my work, like I'm passionate about this work, and I gave 100% of myself to it, and I just loved my clients and pretty much the people I worked with. But you can have people who come into the situation and their negative intentions can really affect you, no matter how good and positive your intentions are or were. And it can come down on you, and it's not fair. And I mean, I've seen it happen to plenty of other people. oh my goodness, and other types of work settings and personal settings. So we have to just be realistic about this, that we set our intentions, but other people are also setting intentions. And sometimes their intention is to hurt you. Sometimes their intention is to make you look bad or to take your job. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of things I've seen happen out there. So we only have control over ourselves, which I think is why, and one of the reasons intentions are so important, is that we need to be very careful about what we want, what we're thinking we want, what we are intentionally drawing into our lives, into our thoughts, and we have power. I've talked about this before, but I'm going to bring it up again. This was a really like a wow epiphany moment for me with intentions. It got to the point where I had been doing it more and more, but even like casually things, my band was playing in Las Vegas and we were backstage, and it had a little bit of time before we were on stage the first time. And we had a booth set up for CD sales. And as we're walking from behind the stage, I said, I really need a massage. We walked around and a massage school had set up a booth right next to our CD table. And my friends all looked at me and they're like, you scare me. Because that kind of thing was happening regularly, where I would just say something casually, but I'm thinking, you know, I really need that. And boom, there it is. Have a free massage. So, you know, pay attention to those things. Those are not coincidences. You are creating that, negative or positive. That's all I wanted to say.
I'm gonna jump in right there. Yeah, you made me think of synchronicity with the table there. It's almost like it's like it was already ordained before you even had the desire. That's the crazy part. So you made me think of desires, and for me personally, I believe that intentions and desires are connected, and that actually a lot of our thoughts and feelings are dependent on our desires. Um, and that might mean my intentions actually guide my life, in my opinion. And so setting an intention is like aiming at a general target. And perhaps when I'm conscious of my intentions, I'm taking hold of my destiny in a way, and one's karma too, perhaps. And that's powerful stuff. It's like my intentions are a blueprint. And so you said we're powerful, and I think we are. And the thing is, you know, you might just get what you ask for. And I think you do. I think your deepest driving desire is kind of being shaped around you, and it guides you to maybe deciding what you really want as you get feedback. But this is going to sound weird, but I think creation is very efficient at giving us what I want, but it can be a cruel joke sometimes. And what I mean by that is, like, you might get what you want, but at what cost? It's like, well, this is what you wanted. And it's like life is saying to me, like, Robert, isn't this what you wanted? But then I'm like, yeah, but I didn't want to pay this cost for it. I didn't want to give this up, or I didn't want to have to go through this to get it. And I feel like, you know, for me, as I see the ledger of costs and gains add up over the years and getting what I think I want, I personally believe I receive wisdom in understanding the nature of this whole thing. And I learned how not to suffer so much, as I'm humbled by how wildly unpredictable this thing is. And I think you pass when you understand. And some might think this means you should be very specific about what you want. I would actually suggest the opposite. I encourage myself to be very general about my intentions and desires. You know, if I want a joyful and peaceful life, I don't try to manifest what I think is joyful and peaceful. I ask God for divine guidance and allowing peace and joy to unfold in my reality. And I think we talked about this earlier. And I think this is an important distinction because, you know, there's, you know, one is no and the other is I don't know. So please help me. And I think it's okay to let go. And I think ultimately, in my opinion, spirituality has a lot to do with humility. And you don't need to be stressed out about the details. Instead, you are free to feel the relief that you don't have to worry about them. You know, you're taken care of. It's okay to let go. And I think, you know, you make those general desires and general energy, and let that intention solve the puzzle for you over time. That's 2 cents. I kind of went on a rant there, guys. But Roz, I see you're ready.
Well, I just wanted to say that's really a good point, because we are very strong-willed people on this planet. And I think always going back to what's in the highest and best good is a good uh, approach.
Yeah.
And also, some humility to realize that, since as Ivory pointed out, I mean, we don't know everything. So it's really good to, be open to receiving what is in the right format at the right time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of a tippy toe. Like you're a little bit walking a tightrope there. So
Mhm.
you have to always, keep your will managed along with what God has in mind and what is supposed to be going on. And hopefully we're perceptive enough, that we get that. But I don't know, once your will takes over, you're walking a little slippery slope there. So you have to be aware, I think.
What you said earlier speaks to this too. I think things can really go awry if we're not committed to self-honesty and transparency.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
if one, I think if I haven't developed the skill and capacity to be honest with myself, with the help of people around me, obviously, like mentors, et cetera, then man, it's going to be really hard to figure out what I want. Like I'll just be lying to myself to continue the narrative that I've built. But if I'm willing to challenge that narrative and focus on that self honesty and recognize character defects, I think it's going to be a lot easier to have a better life. Is interesting point.
And I'm just going to say, I'm not raising my hand because nobody else is, but I'm just going to say that I think we have to be careful too about what we set intentions about, because I've noticed something that, like, if I set an intention for something, but it's not, I know it's really not going to be the best thing for me. It's not going to happen. It's not, or it's definitely not going to happen the way that I'm envisioning it. And I think we have to be very careful and just really think about, is that something I want to set an intention about? Is that something I'm 100% sure I want in my life? And that goes back to what you were saying, Robert, about sometimes, you might set an intention and you get it, and then you had to give up something really big, or, there's this balance, and there always is that balance. Something has to go as something comes in. That's true for all areas of life. You only have so much energy and time. And so there's a sacrifice sometimes that needs to be made to get these big things that we intend. And that's why I'm a thinker anyway, so I like to think about things a lot before I make a big decision, including intending something big. Just just a thought. Go ahead, Terry
Mhm.
Ann.
Thanks, Hyper.
And I was going to add also, a lot of times I know we do a lot of intention setting in our office, and there's power in numbers. I think a lot of people don't realize how powerful they are. And when my clients come in, and I don't think they can realize either, I've had a lot of people say to me, well, why would I manifest something negatively, And I'm like, but you're thinking in that aspect. And so you're attributing to what you're, even if you're just thinking about it, like it's going to go horribly wrong. I mean, putting that out there so you can manifest, like you said earlier, negative and positive. And then when we work with our intentions with a group of people, it's even more powerful. So you have a bunch of people on the same page. This is what everybody wants, and we intend for the highest good of everybody in our office. And that is such powerful work. I've not experienced that before until I've met you ladies. And I have to say that that's just been one of the most instrumental parts of my experience of learning, has been with you two teaching me the power of numbers.
Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, I was thinking about looking at 2022. I think we mentioned that in the details, and about if someone's going to set goals or expectations for the new year, maybe they'd like to hear what we think about that in terms of the process. And I think about New Year's resolutions. And what I'm going to say, I think you're not going to hear many people say, and it's paradoxical. And I'd say give up. And it's like, what do you mean give up? And I'm like, well, yeah, like give up. You might be shocked what good things come when you give up. And the reason I say that is I'm speaking from experience. And like my spiritual awakening, I would call it, sort of the day that things just exploded. You know, it's like the Big Bang spiritually for me, and was the day that I surrendered every single thing in my life that I thought I was solving and I thought I was fixing or whatever. And I just hit a point where I said, you know what, I give up. And I didn't know who I was talking to, but I said, whatever you want, I will do. Whatever you want, let's do it. Let's go. And that was my intention. And so many incredible, great things and moments of joy, moments of all inspiration, resonance, the totality of now occurred from that moment. And it's almost like the new year is another way to reset like that. So what I would say, if there's somebody that was listening, or me, myself, or whatever, if I said I wanted to, you know, what are some big New Year's resolutions? Oh, I want to be more productive. I want to lose weight. I want to get my diet better. I want to get fit, or whatever. I would say maybe the first thing you can consider doing is giving up. And what I mean by that is giving up that you know what's best, you know, and maybe like wiping the slate clean. And I hope this doesn't lead anybody astray when I say give up, but I guess what I mean is it's like
Surrender.
what surrender. Yeah, it's like empty your glass, you know, like allow give some room for inspiration. Give a little room for inspiration, like branch out, maybe do something you allow yourself the capacity to do something you wouldn't normally do. Because I really do believe that oftentimes the treasure we seek resides in the cave we wish not to enter. And it's like, gosh, that's so hard to think like, oh, the one thing I don't want to do is what I have to do. But it's like, that's not the end of the road. The thing is, that could be the first step of many steps. And then you'll get feedback and clarity as you take that step. And for me, I'm not willing to take those steps unless I surrender or give up, rather. So if anybody wants to, any of you folks want to add on to that to make it make more sense, I might have not done a good job there, but if you're feeling what I'm saying.
I think surrender is something we have to do multiple times in life. And those times when you just are so overwhelmed and you've tried everything and you don't even know what to do next. I mean, those are moments where it makes sense to surrender. And like you said, doesn't matter. I don't, ask the universe, ask your angels, ask God, ask whatever you need to ask. But just tell them, I don't even know what to do. I'm just putting myself, I've done it. I'm just putting myself in your hands and asking you to guide me where I need to be. I don't even know where I'm headed here. I don't even know what's next. And I've been there 3 times in my life. It's not a fun place to be, but that's exactly what ended up happening, was me surrendering, because I just felt like I didn't even know what to do next. So it does happen for sure. One thing I want to be sure we talk about today is that when you're looking at the new year, it's great, look at what you need, but I know where my heart's focused right now is what the world needs. Like, I'm really spending a lot of time doing intentions for the world, that not just our country, because it's not just happening in our country, all of this discord, the anger, the violence, the fear, all of it, it is happening worldwide. And I know part of that, I have friends who are astrologists, and they've been telling me for years we were coming up to this period of time where it always precedes discord and war and disagreements, and we come out of it in 2022. So, that's one thing. Every time I look at things for people, timelines for people, 2022, things start to ease up, things start to clear up. So it's a really good time to start thinking about, what do you want? What changes do you want to see in the world? Would you like to have some more ease, some more peace and serenity? Let's intend that for our world, for the people of our planet. And like Terry Ann was saying, there's so much power in numbers. So if you're watching this, you're listening to this show, do this with us. I mean, I do it every day, sometimes twice a day, consciously sit and just send that intention out, because I know there's so many studies done where people set intentions as a group and miraculous things happen. And I know that this can happen on a worldwide scale too, but it just takes enough people who are willing to do that work. So anyway, go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, you just made me think of affirmations, and I'm not a big affirmation person. I mean, I am, but I'm not. I don't do it frequently, but when I do it, I kind of pour my whole heart into it. And many times during the day, or oftentimes in the morning, or maybe throughout the day, I'll say, I think it's setting an intention through an affirmation, and I'll say, I am the presence of love everywhere I go. And I'll say, I am the presence of peace pervading the space all around me. And I mean, that becomes my intention. And it becomes it's like my aim for what my very presence will be. And I think it matters. Like, I think you say that enough, like it sticks, and it helps me. So I never put that together, intention and affirmation. Again, I encourage myself to stay pretty general with it, but that's another way to look at it, like it's almost like you're commanding it to happen, an affirmation. Something I thought of there.
That's interesting. And I'm just going to say, there's a thing I do in the shower, and it's a prayer. It's a cleansing routine to remove negative energy and to really like have me emit, just shine forth as much light as possible. And it starts with letting the water run on the top of my head and just saying, under the blue waterfall of God's love and protection, washing away all negativity from within and without, leaving, and I add it, making me a pure and radiant reflection of God's love. And I'll say it several times as I'm in the shower, every time the water's running over the top of my head. It's habit, but as I do that, like I'm really seeing that, I visualize that. And it also reminds me of something Roz and I have both done. We didn't know we were doing it, but we were individually both doing something like this. For me, I would visualize, and an massive intention goes with this. And I still do this every morning. I visualize that this giant antenna, like a thin antenna, comes out of my crown chakra and it goes miles up into the air. And then it emits this signal that people who are meant to see me, people that I can help, people who are on a journey, people who are confused and lost and need my help, that they will be drawn to me through my words, my written words, my voice, my picture, anything about me, that they can find me and get the help they need. And I just see that signal like blasting out and going around the planet. And it's so powerful to me. Like I feel my frequency changes when I do these things. So anyway,
I don't have my hand up, but I forgot to raise it, but it looked like you stopped. Yeah, it's almost like intention is like the essence of action. I know I tend to get philosophical, and that sounds super philosophical, but what I mean is like essence. And it's almost like when I think of mantras, like mantras, it's almost like tapping into your essence. And it's really, when you repeat this thing, it's sort of something having to do with essence. And I don't know. I'm tempted to get off into talking about mantra, but I'll spare us because Ivory has her hand up.
no, Robert, all I wanted to say is we like your philosophical side and don't ever apologize for it and don't hold back. Go for it.
Gotcha.
That's literally all I wanted to say.
I don't know. Well, what I wanted to, the direction I was going to go off in is a little bit off topic. So I don't know. Anyways, anybody else thinking something? What do you got going on, Roz? I see you smiling.
I just started to say maybe that's another topic.
Well, it was, what I thought about was that I think it's called the Nicene Creed, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, etc. And the way it started talking about the way I interpret it. And, for anybody listening, I don't identify with a particular tradition or religion. I believe truth is one and the paths are many. And I believe I've been gifted the privilege of finding truth in many religions. And one that I think there's some beautiful writings in that are subject to interpretation. They're not literal, is Christianity. And I think it's the Lord's Prayer, nice and clean. I can't remember, but our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, etc. And the way I interpret it in brief is our Father who art in heaven. I think of heaven. I think of our Father as being consciousness, the cosmos, etc., the supreme creator, Brahman and Hinduism, etc. And heaven is the heart, it's the kingdom of God within you. And so our Father who art in heaven, I'm saying the goodness and righteousness that's in me. Hallowed be thy name, meaning it's sacred. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. It's that righteousness and goodness going into the world, into action, into form, from within me, from the inspiration within me. Our Father art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven, etc. Anyway, so the point of this is just to say that I feel like when I do say, that's a mantra to me. It's a prayer almost. And when I do that and I tap into that interpretation, I feel like it kind of lifts up my essence, lifts up my frequency, and it changes my intention. I sort of latch onto it, kind of like I do the affirmation. So that's what I wanted to share, but I felt like maybe not everybody was particularly interested in my interpretation of the Nicene Creed.
Why not? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who are like, oh, that's really interesting. And they're going to take a look at that and give it more thought. I was raised Catholic till I was 14. I don't know why the family made that change at that time, but yes, that's a prayer we have said many times.
I think there's a lot to that one.
To many of them, for sure. So intentions, just if you're interested in making a powerful statement, you can create your own group too. Groups that you belong to, spiritual groups you belong to that are social groups, your friends, gather together and do some joint intentions for yourselves and for the world, and just be prepared for some amazing experiences. What we've done, and I was thinking about as you talked about our group stuff, Terry Ann, about maybe we should take everybody up to Airport Mesa to the vortex up there, and we should do our usual standing in a circle and make all the maintenance people wonder what we're doing. But we stand in a circle up there and do our intentions, and it's just a very powerful place. And we haven't done that in a while. Well, I haven't done it with you. While I was working from home, you two might have been doing it. I don't know. But we could do that with the whole group. That would be really interesting. But this is something that everybody can do. And you don't need to do this work for a living. You can just have some clear intentions that you want to work on as a group and do it. Whether you're together in person or not doesn't matter. Any other thoughts on intentions today?
Oh my gosh.
We've got 2 minutes. He's thinking. He's thinking. He looks like the thinker.
My intention today is to get a haircut, actually. It's very matted down, but this thing's getting out of control. It's hard to see.
You go. It looks fine to me, but you do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today, and tune in next Friday. Our topic, it's the first Friday of the month, so we'll be, as usual, discussing an alien race, and this time it's the Lyrans. That's going to be really interesting. And in the meantime, hope you have a happy new year and a very enlightening week.